Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hey everybody, welcome to Night Vision. Once again, if it's your first time being here, I'm Renee Barnett, I'm the host. And I really appreciate you spending some of your Friday evening or Saturday morning or whatever it is for you where you are with us here because we've got some pretty exciting things to talk about. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. But it's been a crazy week. I was just saying, as you guys can see, it looks like someone has cut my hair with an axe tonight. And that's almost the case because I noticed just before air, my bangs were hanging in my eyes. So I grabbed the scissors and started whacking and didn't notice how uneven they were until I got on camera. So apologies for the bad hair day. And I've had worse days this week, as I explained off air, I won't go into. But anyhow, tonight we're going to get into some really interesting history because we're going to get into the astrological history of the United States of America. So we have a master astrologist with us tonight who's going to explain it all to us. And we're going to also be taking a look at the natal chart of the nation. So July 4th, 1776 is the birthday of our nation. And then we're also going to be looking at some later events and how they corresponded. And then also at sort of where we are currently and what we might be able to expect in the future. So for me, that is very exciting. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce my guest tonight. His name is Matt Gleason. He is a master astrologer, not to mention a fabulous art critic, a very well-known one, by the way. And he's going to help us navigate through the stars tonight. Hi, Matt.
Hey, Renee. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Oh, I see you got your Instagram up there, and I'll put your name up there as well so that people can see who you are. But I'm just wondering, first of all, if, people that may not know you, I know some of my listeners and watchers have seen you before on this very show and others. But for those who may not know, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? How did you get into the whole astrology game?
Oh, I was living in downtown LA before it became trendy. And one of the great features of downtown LA is they have an amazing public library. And so a friend of mine that I was living near was really into astrology. And I was like, that's bunk. And he cast my chart and told me some stuff. And I said, wow, that's kind of out of the realm of statistical probability to just throw this stuff out that he doesn't necessarily know about me. It's not like they say, oh, you can kind of hunch what a person's like. He was saying some detailed stuff that was a little like, well, maybe a little uncomfortable that I didn't think people really readily knew me and I don't really advertise. I thought that was interesting enough, but I was still very skeptical. So I went to the LA Public Library and I started reading, and they have hundreds of books on astrology. My joke is I read 400 books on astrology, but 250 of them were plagiarized from each other. So you'd read a book, you say, wait a minute. You go to that other book. The other day I was reading this book. So over a course of a year and a half, I really just read up on it. And then, of course, you start practicing, doing people's charts and learning from doing. My friend Bob, who he's long passed away, but my friend Bob Bertero and I would talk about astrology every day. So that had a mentor relationship there. And yeah, basically,
was that long enough ago that you were doing it by hand, like with an ephemeris? And
it was before, right before computers. Like now I can go online, like the other day you said, hey, could we talk about some different subjects? And I was able to find some charts.
Yes.
That used to be, I got to go to the library. I got to dig through these books, or I have to buy these books. And I now have a decent book library myself. But it's changed. I don't know if it's changed for the better, though. And I'll tell you why is you'll get a lot of people now on the internet, and not to disparage millennials, but they're mostly millennials. And they, they've been into astrology for 5 minutes, and they're, spouting off heavy duty stuff. And, I've been around to look trial and error and watch certain patterns in people and different signs and planetary progressions. And I've read tons of classical astrology and calculated different things. So these people are into it for 5 minutes. It's almost dangerous. What I like, though, is when somebody's into astrology for about 3 years. I've been doing it almost 30 years. But when somebody's into it for about 3 years, they get really good. Like I can admit having my own biases and prejudices and maybe being a little closed-minded to some of the newer stuff. So somebody who's into it for 3 years is like, that's really like, you're into, so they know enough that I can have a deep conversation with them, but they'll have insights that so some people say, I don't want to get somebody, they want to get a reading from me because I've been into astrology for 30 years. The other astrologer, he's only been into astrology for 3 years. Like, sometimes that's better. So I'm not here to just say only, what is it? It's the fallacy of in the fallacy, the fallacies of authoritarianism. I'm an authority. I've been into it longer than you. It's not necessarily how I look at it. I try to keep an open mind about it the whole time, all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine you'd have to, in you saying, you bring in your own biases and all that in terms of your preferred way of doing things. But what about when you're doing a chart or a reading or however you do it? Is it all just simply cut and dry, or does your own feelings or intuition or anything ever come in?
It is an intuitive process. I've seen things where, like, the classical books will say, ABC. For example, some books, like an astrology book published during the Great Depression, and you read about a chart analysis. And let's say one of the great things in one of the great aspects to have in your chart would be a Sun Jupiter, the Sun and Jupiter together in the same space. Wow, that's really strong. And the astrology book written in the Great Depression will say, don't think these good times will last forever. You're like, what? And then you read an astrology book written maybe in the late 60s, early 70s, where there's kind of the hippie presence.
Yeah.
And maybe the worst aspect in astrology is Mars, a square with Saturn, 90-degree angle to Saturn in the 360-degree circle around us. And that's pretty, when somebody has that, I really do an astrology. I have to sit them down and go, okay, we really got to talk about your self-destructive tendencies. But the hippy-dippy astrology analysis would be like, the challenges of where you take yourself are. It's like, well, you gotta,
You're marching to your own drummer.
what I'm trying to point out is that astrology has a very cultural angle. I did a reading the other night with a woman, and she had what's called an elevated Mars. Mars is very high in her chart. And I said, this is the kind of, if you had been born in without singling out the countries, some conservative countries that may apply a certain religion to their everyday life, a woman as independent as her chart read with this elevated Mars. I said, by the time you were 5, they'd have thrown you in the river,
So would have been in big trouble.
So there's just some cultures that don't. On the other hand, I recently was looking at one chart. I said, this woman was complaining about her, she had not had success in relationships. And I said, I looked at her chart and I said, you would have done really well in a country where the parents arranged the marriage.
Yeah.
And for here, that's like the most un-American thing you can, oh my God, arrange a marriage. And yet these cultural, the cultural consistencies are separate from the astrological consistencies. Just say, hey, you're really independent. Or you're not going to be too good selecting a partner. Well, in America, you're kind of on your own. Too bad. Whereas in other countries, they have a fix for that.
Right.
So I can look at somebody's chart and understanding where they come from culturally is a lot of it. But then there is a lot of intuition in the process. But I try not to. I don't claim any psychic powers. I just claim a wealth of knowledge and the experience of having applied that knowledge to
I mean, even Einstein said, intuition was the most important thing.
Absolutely. Imagination is much more important than knowledge. So it's what you can look at an astrology chart and it's what you do with it.
Yeah. Now, most people, and I'm including myself in this, don't know a lot about astrology. I mean, I've been exposed to it always, but I've never taken it up as a study or anything like that. I mean, I know where all my planets are. Don't challenge my memory to name them off, but
well, you give away your age too. I've had
exactly.
there's been more on one time a woman who it turned out she was a stickler on hiding her age and never discussing her age. It was a state secret. And we were all sitting around once and I knew a lot about astrology, and then somebody said something about astrology, and she wanted to show that she knew a lot about astrology, and she said, oh, blah, 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 this and that, and she said, and I have Jupiter in Taurus. It's my only Earth sign. And I said, oh, so you were born in 1952. And man, she had to get up and she had to leave the party within 5 minutes. She was so upset. And it was just like, yeah. So sometimes, again, knowing too much is not necessarily the best case scenario.
That's true. I'm of a mind that, I don't want to say that I'm younger than I am because I don't want people saying, oh, what happened to her, But if they know how old I really am, I'm really fighting to, hang in there. I'm hoping they'll say, oh, man, you look great.
Oh, yeah. No, I had an aunt, her secret was tell them you're 10 years older.
Exactly.
So if you're 70 and you say you're 80, they're like, man, for 80, you're doing amazing.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So, but also, like I know where my planets are. So like if you and I, or you and anyone, were in a discussion and they said, okay, my sun is in this, my rising sign is this, my moon's in this, and, blah, blah, blah. Would that tell you anything without looking at the chart?
Yeah. I mean, I've done it enough. Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes, like the other day I had a new client. I hadn't, and I look at the chart and right away, they remind, I think of other clients who have had the same thing. Oh, that person had this. So I don't want to say make assumptions, but there's what you would learn in a book and then what you've learned from trial and error. So that's part of it, I think. But everybody's unique. And even people born a minute or two apart, this thing, look, I mean, things are constantly moving. If you go out and, you see the moon rise, the moon's not rising, we're spinning. And so, you look 20 minutes later and it's higher in the sky, and that would be reflected in the astrology chart.
Yeah. So I wonder, like how much the average person, I mean, people say, oh, she's a Gemini. I'm getting away from her. I am a Gemini, by the way. And I thought of myself when you were talking about the bad relationships, and that was not my year of birth, but it's not. I mean, it's close, but I am. And you may know. I may give myself away right here to the people out there, but I was born in a tiger year. The Chinese.
Oh yeah, see that's actually Jupiter. It's funny. Jupiter's, like I was saying earlier. It's every 12 years, so it's very similar to the.
And I know that in China.
So I know what you're. I'm not going to say it, but I know what you're.
Of course, I'm really not that precious about it, but anyway. But the thing about it is, I didn't know anything about Chinese astrology either. Still don't. But I did meet a lady and became friends, this Chinese woman, and she was really into it, and she was also a tiger year. We were born the same year. And she said that in China, there's a lot of arrangement of marriages in China, and that the marriages are arranged by the mothers of the grooms generally. And she said no mother would ever pick a tiger year woman for their son. And she said, but usually it's because of that independent thing. And, that she might've been being kind. I don't know. But whatever it was, not good wife material until much later in life. I mean, I'm still waiting, for that to happen. So I'm not sure maybe from the grave will be
later in the United States is, well, and I'll give you another example is in astrology is that there are a lot of in the classical astrology books from hundreds of years ago before modern science has extended our lives. And so they were like what are considered the death transits in the 1800s are now like, that might be when you have to, start getting on a statin, you have to, you have to, or you're going to have to exercise more. And we don't think about those things when we're in our 20s. But the classic, the Saturn return was like, this could be a death transit. The Saturn return is not a death transit in a society as sophisticated as ours. If we were in the third world, some parts of the third world, there still might be a lot of, places where they get cholera regularly. These things challenge one's health. But in medieval Europe, that was kind of the norm. Yeah, you're probably going to get cholera at some point, So as we've become advanced, astrology, it can still reflect. I mean, it used to be Saturn. The Saturn return was the death knell. So you either died in your late 20s, early 30s, or you died in your late 50s. And then if not, then you're one of the rare senior citizens. But now it's so sophisticated that now the planet Uranus goes around every 84 years, and now that's the Uranus return is kind of like, once you hit 84, it's like throwing the dice in Vegas. I mean,
it's a crapshoot by that time.
It's a complete crapshoot after 84. Well, it used to be that way after 29, after 50, up to 29, up to 58. So these things, I mean, the planets just keep going. They don't care about us, but they certainly impact us as newborns, in my opinion. And while I cannot show you the mechanism, I can show you the consistency that when we find the mechanism one day. I mean, we know that there are that colors that some animals see that we don't see. There are gamma rays that affect some agriculture, some botanical plants that we can't see. But we finally invented a machine that could detect the gamma rays. So maybe one day we'll detect a machine that will detect the rays that I always say the astrologers are actually ahead of science in a couple ways. I'll tell you one. When the planet Uranus was discovered in the late 1700s, immediately it was decided among the astrologers that this had to be the planet of disruption, of just absolute chaos. And in the 1980s, when the satellite went by and finally took pictures of the planet Uranus, it was discovered that it's the lone planet with its axis, instead of being up here and the planet spinning like this, the axis is 2 degrees above the equator. The planet literally spins like this. And then they later even found that it had a light ring like Saturn, but it's a vertical ring, vertical to us, but it's still like Saturn. It's still going around that axis. And so here it is. That's a major disruption. So it took until the 1980s for the literal scientists to find out what the astrologers had ascertained 200 years prior to that.
Yeah. Now, along with the rising sign, I know there's so many things, when you're looking at the chart.
Oh, there's a lot of things. And again, to my point about the millennial, they've studied astrology for 20 minutes and they want to get on TikTok and talk about it. A lot of times you'll find out what to put emphasis on in a chart is the importance of some things. And I'm going to get into that when we get into the chart soon.
Okay.
About like in your chart, as a Gemini, the planet Mercury rules Gemini, very important. Somebody else's chart, the Mercury may be less important depending on their zodiac sign and some of the planetary angles and how the chart, what time of day they were born and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Anytime you read one of those general descriptions of Gemini, they always say something about public speaking or being in the media, which is kind of funny because that's, kind of where I've always headed. But
Mercury's the planet of communication.
Yeah.
So
right.
the communicator, Gemini's a communicator. Yeah.
There's now I'm really going to tell my age to everyone, but back in the 70s, and it's on YouTube because I just looked it up the other day and I sent it to a friend of mine who was also around at that time, so I know she knows it. It was an album, a record album called Zodiac Cosmic Sounds.
Oh, wow.
You got to look it up, Matt.
Oh, wow.
And it describes, in this really cool, fantastical way, each astrological sign. And I remember, I think like the last few words of Gemini or something, it says something like, it says camera eye. And I thought, that's true. It's like, that's how I learn, is taking pictures, like spelling words and things like that. It was always like, I would remember what it looked like rather than how it sounded out, or I don't know. Anyway,
I
don't know how accurate the whole thing is, but it's very funny to listen to today, because it's so 70s.
Dated references and all.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's really cool though. But we used to listen to that, sit around in the circle. I won't tell you what else we were doing. But we might still be doing that.
It's legal
now. Only now it's legal. So at that time in Oklahoma, it certainly was not, and probably still is not.
Oh no, yeah. Well, some states are dragging their going to go into the 21st century kicking and screaming.
Yeah, that's funny. But what I was going to say was I got distracted by the Zodiac Cosmic Sounds. I'll send you the link, when we're offline. You just, you'll get a kick out of it. But some of the things I recall, when people would look at my chart or other individual charts of other people, they would talk about something called trines.
Trines, yeah.
One planet was trine to another. And
trine is, it's 100. There's a 360-degree circle. I mean, it's a map. It's a map.
Yeah.
Your astrology chart is basically a geocentric map of where the planets were at the moment you were born. And so, you see the moon rise and you look at the chart, and then the moon goes up. Hey, it really does match where the planets are in relationship to us. And, a trine is a 120-degree angle. So the 360-degree circle. So if you have a planet at the very top of your chart, and then it would go down, there'd be like 120 degrees of the circle. And then sometimes people have what's called a grand trine, where it actually forms a triangle in the chart.
I think I might have one of those, but
I wish I had one. Yeah.
I think there's some argument because I know there was one astrologer that put my rising sign or something in a different place. And I'm not sure what his explanation was at that time, but I may even have all the wrong information. I just don't know. But
it's my saying is always the more accurate the information you give me, the more accurate the predictions and information I'll give you.
That's right. Well, I honestly can't remember. I know I have a few trines. And I think someone either told me I had a grand trine or it was really close to a grand trine. I don't know. But what does it mean when you have a trine? Is that, and I guess it can mean different things depending on what planet is.
A lot of it's what planet is trine, and what planet is 120 degrees from the other planet. Are they, what zodiac signs are they in? But also, what planets are they? So, if your ruling planet is in a trine, that's really great. That's a Vegas vacation.
I don't
know. But if it's some minor planets that don't necessarily impact you like they may impact other signs, it may not be. It's nice to have. It's always nice to have a trine. Although, it's a lot of times things that come to us easily, we don't necessarily capitalize on. So they say easy come, easy go. I think the stereotype of like the rich kid who never works and inherits the money, doesn't really appreciate it, and then they squander it. That's a classic read of a trine. Like, oh, you'll have all of this. Oh yeah, and they don't care, and then it's gone, or they squander it, or they had other things that if they had used it wisely, like, wow, I've got this gift from the universe, this trine. I should use it to work on the things that are more challenging for me so I can be a more complete individual. Things like
Mm.
that are they're kind of tough,
Oh, that's
because easy come,
interesting.
easy go. And then, again, though, in the medieval, the medieval astrology, the Hellenistic, the ancient Greek astrology, the trine is like, oh, you're going to have at least one thing's going to go right because life was miserable back then. People died in their teens and 20s, and a
Yeah.
very small percentage of people, there's like books where there's aspects where between planets that are like dying in childbirth. And there's whole astrology books and pamphlets and chapters of astrology books on dying in childbirth, because in classical astrology, the king, the king's going to marry. We're going to get who's the queen. Well, we have to make sure, is she going to bear, am I going to sire the
Right.
person
And we're going to have an heir.
and also, will she die in childbirth? Because we're going to need an heir and a spare,
Yeah.
just in case. So those things now, it's like, yeah, it's, so the tense angle that would be something like that. Now that's something like, well, you can use the trine to really apply to make that tense angle easier on you.
I
So
see.
use the gifts that you have to make the challenges that come naturally to you, the things that you're most challenged at. Use those good things to make those things less of a self-destructive
Right.
tendency.
So it's not like you change your chart, but you use the chart as like a guideline.
It's understanding. Like for example, if you understand about, if you own your own business, I do a lot of charts of people who own their own business. And one thing you say, like, well, if I see a lot of stubbornness in there, that tends to be an indication that the person doesn't trust other people. And so they're like, okay, no, I'm going to make the bank deposit. I'm going to do this. So they do so many things that if they would only trust their employee to do, not that they couldn't verify, not to keep an eye on the person. I'm not saying just, but if you can hire a manager and grow the company by trusting them to like get A, B, and C done with this budget, it's a lot. Those are people who become tycoons because they
know how to delegate.
Yeah, exactly. Where instead of some people who have their own business, you find out the reason they have their own business is because they couldn't work for anybody. And so I've seen those patterns before, but that's the thing too, is
and a lot of people that don't trust anyone, I find those are the people in the end that are more likely to not be trustworthy.
Well, absolutely, because they're always a lot of it comes from the same selfish position of only putting their self-interest first. So,
and I think if you don't trust people, I think most of us generally, trust what people tell us. I mean, we're not idiots, but if someone tells us something, we don't have a tendency to question everything somebody says.
I think there's a hierarchy of people. Like maybe you might trust what your father says, or maybe you never trust what your father says. You learn, early on. That's two extremely divergent paths in life. If you learn, oh, I trust my father, so therefore, amiable authority figures, I really trust them, as opposed to, I don't trust my father. It's like, oh, anybody who's an authority figure or male authority figure, it's like this, or things like that. Or if you're, it can start pretty young, regardless of your astrology chart. So you can look at somebody's astrology chart and it can tell you their tendencies, but a lot of how they were brought up does come into it. But people still fall back, and there's all sorts of things about. A lot of studies are done on people who were born as twins and separated, and then they find out that they have so much in common and so many things.
Like they'll marry someone by the same name and
same name, same background. Yeah. So and then you look at it, the same things happen to them at the same time. The planet's in a particular position, and we just we go with it. I completely believe in free will. I believe in free choice. But it's almost like I look at somebody's chart sometimes, and the joke among astrologers is, they pay us for advice and they never take it. So it's like I've given people advice, and the people who
do that all the time. So
it's just like, what can you do? I can't live your life for you,
because you brought up the twin thing. They do have so much in common. There's usually, generally at least a few minutes between the births. One is a little few minutes older than the other.
Yeah. My brother had triplets, and they're a minute apart. So
yes.
I've got their charts.
Do those minutes make any difference?
Yeah, because depending on the time of the day, that what's called the rising sign is the eastern horizon. What's rising? I actually, by the way, I am pointing east from where I'm sitting.
Okay.
But I can display it here. The eastern horizon on a chart would be called the rising sign. It's a very important point. So if you have a planet on the rising sign, if a planet is rising right over the horizon, just as much as if it's on the midheaven, the very top of the chart. So there's at certain times of the day, and depending on your latitude and your distance from the equator, there's sometimes the appearance. And again, they're not moving, and we're spinning at a pretty consistent rate. But because of where we are, what we see in the heavens appears to be moving faster. It's not it's just based on where we are. It's like if you're driving, if you're in the front seat, things are coming at you. But if you're in the passenger seat looking this way, they're going sideways. It's a lot about where you are in the planet. I just did someone's chart, and they were born in a city and they told me the name of the city, and they told me the name of the state. And then there were two cities in that state. And I was like, oh, this is new. And so I cast it for both counties, the city in each county. And it was about 1.5 degrees off of a 360-degree circle. And sometimes that could be really important because a planet could move into the next, what we call the house, from one house to the other. In this case, it didn't. It was a mild difference, but it did move things a little closer to, being a little more intense, I guess you could say, about certain things, career-wise or job-wise. Job being different than career. Again, these are important to understand. So there's it's just a layered.
Gosh,
you just learn so much.
Then, some people don't know their exact time of birth, and I would imagine sometimes it can be.
Oh, it can be off too.
I had one astrologer argue with me because my birth certificate, and my mom told me too, that I was born at 3:00 p.m., 3:00 in the afternoon.
Great.
And he said, oh, they probably just put that. That's probably not exactly right.
Oh, there was for a long time a suspicion of birth certificates that had exact numbers. So 300.
Yeah.
As opposed, and then in Europe, for many years, it was very standard to go 0, 15, 30, 45.
So the seconds.
Somebody born in Europe, and they'll always say, "Oh, it's 7:45 a.m." It's like, yeah. So we all learn, 7:45. And so if there's something that's a little funky, you're like, are you, if the rising sign is really close to changing, like if the rising was 29 degrees of a 30-degree sign, you're like, maybe it's the next sign. And if you know somebody, you go, there's no way in heck this person is a Gemini rising. They got to be a Cancer rising.
Well, that's interesting. As far as I know, I'm Libra rising, but I don't know for sure, and I don't know.
No, well, a Gemini born at 3 p.m. would be a Libra rising. Yes. So what it is the sun would rise. If you're born at 6 a.m., whatever the exact sunrise is, the sun would be right at that rising point. So the sun is in Gemini. You'd be a Gemini rising. And then as the sun rises up during the day, and then it's afternoon, it starts setting. And this is all illustrated in the charts. And we'll show a chart soon, and we can talk about it.
We are going to show it very soon. I know. I'm just so interested in
most people want knowledge. Most people want to see the chart of Britney Spears or J-Lo or Brad Pitt, but why don't you tell us whose chart are we gonna do?
Well, I mean, the first chart that we're going to look at is the United States of America.
July 4th,
is
1776.
Yes. Now I wonder. I'll be happy to show that, and we can let everyone see it. I hope it's visible.
Let's see. Oh, it's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Here, wait. Oh, here. We can just do this. Oh, this is great. Yeah. Now, well, I wish you could see my mouse and I could point things out, but I'll try to
I
talk.
know. I was thinking about that off air. I was thinking,
If you
we
look,
can't really point at things, but
to the left, basically at what we would call 9 o'clock on a chart. And by the way, the reason the clock goes in the direction it goes in is because the leadership, the Catholic leadership, didn't want people into astrology when the clock was invented. So they said, "Now you got to have it go the other way." So it's funny because the zodiac
goes counterclockwise.
Yeah. They wanted to. It's funny, like I say 9 o'clock, but it's the first house. So, but if you look in the center, there's a bunch of numbers. The very center is the Earth, the round circle in the middle. Then you'll see a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if you look at the black line between the 1 and the 12, that is the rising sign. So if you drag across, it has a 12 in there. It's the ascendant is the the point of the rising sign. So it's 12 degrees, and that is the zodiac sign for Sagittarius. Now, the United States was born on July 4th, 1776, but there's not a lot of evidence about what time the Declaration of Independence was signed because a lot of those guys were Freemasons, and Freemasons very secretive.
Yeah.
So you got to be a 35th level or whatever. You got to be second level. We don't just tell a 5th level guy that type of stuff. You got to go through the initiation to the 6th level to learn. So, but some of the stuff leaked out, and for many years there was a lot of confusion as to or disagreement among astrologers about what the actual birth time of the United States was. So this has it at 5 p.m. local mean time in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where the Declaration of Independence was signed. Now, if you go to the middle, you'll see the number 7. And you look into that pie slice of 7, and you'll see a lot of little squiggles in there. Well, the one at the near the top of the pie slice is a circle with a little circle in it by the number 13, and that is the sun. The sun, and it is next to it. You see that blue squiggle is the zodiac sign Cancer. So the United States, born on July 4th, between June 20th and July 20th is July 21st is the zodiac sign Cancer. So the United States, born on July 4th, is a zodiac sign Cancer. So, well, what's the zodiac sign Cancer rule? Like, Taurus rules fine food, Gemini rules, communication.
Doesn't Cancer rule home and hearth?
Home and rules security, homeland security.
Yeah,
we have our own cabinet department of that.
Yeah.
So, so the United States, protected on both sides by 2 oceans, is very much a country obsessed with security. Just look at our defense budget.
Right.
We had, the Department of War in the cabinet was changed to the Department of Defense. And the irony was, about the time we changed it to the name to the Department of Defense, that's when we started having more wars.
Yeah.
So strangely enough, but yeah, so this is basically the chart. It was in the afternoon, so that's why the sun is headed in the direction of the darker line between the 7 and the 6, and it would be setting. If it was higher up at the very top of the circle at basically high noon, if the Declaration of Independence had been signed at noon, that circle with the circle in it, the 13-degree Cancer it would still be in Cancer, all of that stuff. The zodiac sign Cancer would be at the top of the chart. So what's at the top of the chart, though? What's overlooking us at the very top of the chart is a little trident shape with the number 22 by it. Is at the very top is 22 degrees, and the zodiac sign Virgo is the planet Neptune. And what does Neptune rule? Oh, Neptune rules dreams. Hey, look, at the top of the chart of America is the American dream. That's all anybody talks about, the American dream. The Europeans, every European you meet these days, they'll ask you, meet somebody from Europe, the first thing they'll ask you is, you still believe in the American dream? No other country, they don't talk about, the British dream, they talk about the Queen. Anyway.
And also, it's like the American ideal, it's like.
Yes. Exactly, and Neptune is a planet of idealism.
The American experiment.
Yeah, we are ruled by dreams, idealism, a lot of time delusions, and also Neptune has a wonderful relationship with drugs and alcohol. So, in this country that once outlawed alcohol, women received the right to vote specifically because they had campaigned. The whole movement, the suffragette movement, came out of the movement to get their men out of the saloons.
Yeah.
So then once they had him home, they said, after a couple of years, said, get him back in the saloons. I'm sick of this guy. So it didn't last long. But this, the war on drugs. So this country goes through these phases where they sober up and fight things with a passion, and then they want to just go back to dreamland. So it's an interesting that this country is ruled by such a heavy presence of Neptune. Now, another thing, each zodiac sign has a ruler, and since we have the sun in Cancer, what planet rules Cancer is the moon. So the moon is down near the bottom. I guess you would say maybe 6:30 is you'll see the crescent moon down there with the number 27. And that is the American moon in the zodiac sign Aquarius. And Aquarius is a sign of groups. What's the slogan? What's the slogan of the United States? E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Yeah, group unity is an Aquarian ideal. And here, the planet that rules the moon, and the moon is second only to the sun in importance, and the third is the rising sign. And so the moon, the emotional nature of this country is always about togetherness. And you'll find that this country goes through fits and starts of conformity and rebellion, conformity and the individualism of the Aquarian nature. I'm going to march to the beat of my own drummer. And then a generation later, we're going to march to the beat of, the leader. So that's the American thing. It's like they can predict it. They'll say, the president who wins 2 years later, his party will lose seats, no matter how good a job he's doing. What? That's the Aquarian need of like, wait, I want to get this just right.
Yeah.
It
seems like it always happens every time.
And there's also this Cancer need for security. Things aren't going right. We got to get more secure. Almost a paranoia.
Got to try.
These are some of the basics of that. But I will say, one of the things that the astrologers would debate, and you read this, if you read astrology books from the 1930s and 40s, is there were big debates about the birth time. Why does this say 5 p.m? Some people say, no, it was the middle of the night. The Freemasons are hiding the information. So a lot of the astrology books kept saying, there's going to be a date. And on this date, we're going to know what the U.S. birth time was. And we're going to know if it was this 5/10 Sagittarius rising birth time. And what's that date? Well, in the summer of 1969, we're going to have a technological achievement that's going to define America. So if that technological achievement doesn't happen, and there's no drama in the summer of 69 with a technological achievement that defines America, the planet Uranus in this chart would be at the very top. You'll see that very dark line, not at exactly 12 noon. The reason it's off from being an exact circle is it accounts for the northern latitude of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But you'll see that dark line. It's in between the number 9 and the number 10 if you look closer in the bottom of the pie slices. But you'll see that dark line. That's called the midheaven. If you look at it, says MC, and it says 103. That is, but it's 1 degree Libra. Okay, and why were people predicting this far, far in advance in the 1910s and 20s? I mean, Teddy Roosevelt was obsessed with his astrology chart. He said, I keep my weather eye. There was a saying, we don't say this anymore. My weather eye it used to be you have 2 eyes, one to look with optimism and one to look with pessimism, and your weather eye was your pessimism.
Oh.
We always say, I always look at my Scorpio sun with my weather eye. That was Teddy Roosevelt. So around the time of Teddy Roosevelt, people were still debating when was the United States born, what time of day, and so they said, well, there's going to be a thing. So the planet Uranus rules a few things, disruption, and one of them is technology. So what technological achievement happened?
1969 was when the internet was developed?
No.
Computer.
What is the singular technological achievement that the United States will be remembered 1,000 years from now?
Oh, the moon landing.
The moon landing. So the planet Uranus was at 1 degree Libra, the top of this chart, in July of, was it June or July? We would near the day of the
is
moon.
that evidence then that the moon landing actually occurred?
I definitely ascribe to the theory that it would have been harder in 1969 to fake the moon landing as they
then it would be actually.
It would have been to actually just, aim for the rock and just blast a rocket off there, take a camera, make some home movies and come back. In fact, the bigger miracle was returning to Earth. That was a lot tougher.
Ooh, yeah.
So, and anyway, that was one. So then they said, I'm still not convinced. The planet of technology was conjunct the midheaven of the United States. And that same month, they made the greatest technological achievement that this country will ever be remembered for, because it got everything else off to a start.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not convinced. Well, how can I convince you? Well, there's the planet of inexorable change and just absolute ripping apart everything you believe. It's called the planet Pluto. Okay. And so there's going to be a date that absolutely stops America in its tracks, and it changes its whole relationship with the world. And that'll be, the reason that is Pluto, the planet Pluto, will be at that 12-degree Sagittarius rising point, and it will forever change. The rising really is about the appearance of the country. And so what is when is Pluto going to be there? Because we'll be, how about September of 2001?
Oh God. Really?
Yeah. So on 9/11, Pluto was on the rising point. So astrologers are talking about this dozens and dozens and dozens of years before either of these things. They said, well, if that chart is accurate, the transiting planets will prove it right or wrong. So, those are the basic, the security obsession, and that obsession with we, the people, that the moon in Aquarius, we, the people, e pluribus unum, homeland security. There's just so many points here. And the personality determinant on a chart between the sun and the moon is also the rising sign. And Sagittarius is the most capitalistic, just let's go. And that's why when we get too much government, historically, this society has always demanded that pendulum swing back, because we can only take so much before we say no. And again, and that whole fickle electorate really is reinforced by that Sagittarius rising. So,
oh my God.
But we can also look at this chart. And again, this is what I do for a living. And so I how do I put this?
You want to take it down?
No. It can be up or down. No. I'm trying to explain that this is the chart. This is your birth chart. But what I do, in addition to describing somebody's personality, which is, flattery, or, maybe there's a warning in there depending on some tension. But I could talk about this chart all day and all night. But let's look at the next chart I sent you. The next image I sent you is a chart of where the planets are now. Well, this one's it's going to be a little less.
Look around that one very easily. Normally the pictures take up the whole screen anyway, so we're looking.
You can see my shoulder talk here. Okay, so but what we're looking at now, if you look in the center, you'll see the planets where they were in that other chart. You'll see by the number 7, the sun. You'll see Neptune, the trident, near the number 9, near the top of the chart. You'll see that 1 degree MC midheaven. So what we're looking at now is a chart. It's actually for yesterday because there was a new moon.
I was going to say, what date are we looking at? So we're looking.
If you look in the upper right-hand corner where the data is, it'll actually say, it says transits for November 5th, 2021.
Right.
And again, this is for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where July 4, 1776, where the United States was born.
Right.
So what we have here is where the planets are now. And so the lines that we see are how the planets now are interacting with where they were when the United States was born. Now, a lot of planets move very fast in relationship to the Earth. I mean, Now, I know, and Galileo knows, that the sun does not go around the earth. But when we are on the earth, it appears to. And that is how this is this map of where the planets, the sun and moon, are in relationship to the earth are. So in relationship to the earth, the sun does appear to be moving around. So if you look by the number 11, you'll see the red circle with the dot in it. That is the sun. And then the moon right next to it, there was a new moon on November 5th. So these planetary motions that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about some weird, I'm not making this up. This is really where they are. This is Isaac Newton developed the ephemeris of daily planetary motion. And so we're just going on absolute concrete scientific inquiry here.
What is the significance of a new moon? I mean, to you?
Oh, new moon in anybody's chart, in your chart, my chart, anybody getting a reading, but also, in any country, is the new moon is basically a new start. So we have 12 new starts a year. And so it's very important for you to pay attention where the new moon is, so you'll know when to wind down things and when to start. People say, like, oh, I want to start my company. And I'll say, look, have your first day of business be after the new moon, not right before it. I've noticed I have a whole thing I'm working on of when baseball players sign their contracts, because when they sign before the new moon, it's like, it didn't turn out as good. When they sign it right after the new moon, oh, that's good. Or, when a player starts their career, like their first game in is like 2 days before the new moon, it's like, he ain't going to be around. He ain't going to be around too long. And then if they start it right out, and it's not every time, because there are other factors, but these are things to just keep your eye on. And now that sports betting is becoming so big, it's like people are really like, it used to be for their fantasy football teams, but now people are saying, hey, I need to gamble. What quarterback's going to do better? So I have been hired to look at a few of those. But so that's the significance of the new.
Do you get a cut of the winnings?
I have faith in what I predict, but I do like to get paid, like the casino, in advance.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Now, the idea of being able to look at, okay, so this is the same chart. I mean, we're looking at
the inner wheel is the same chart of where the planets were on July 4th, 1776.
Okay.
And the outer wheel is where the planets are now. And I do want to point something out that's fascinating. I'll do this really quickly because I know you got to take a break here in a minute. By the number 2,
5 minutes
okay, we got 5 minutes. Okay, great. Okay, by the number 2, you'll see a letter. It looks like a letter P with a line below it, and that is the planet Pluto. Now, if you notice, the wheel the inner wheel is where the planets were in 1776, and now the outer wheel is where the planets are now. And you'll see the planet Pluto is coming up to where it was the day the Declaration of Independence was signed. And here's the thing. The planets in the zodiac, they're spinning around all the time. I mean, especially with something 250 years old.
Yeah.
These planets have been around a few times in our lifetime. You're lucky to get 3 Saturn returns. My parents are in their 90s, and they went through their 3rd Saturn return. It was like, wow, that doesn't happen all that often. They had a planet Uranus return after 84 years. But the United States is now old enough to be going through a Pluto return. And remember, Pluto, when it was on the ascendant, on the point of the rising sign in Sagittarius, was September of 2001. So in February of next year, where that P is lined up is going to be exactly lined up with where Pluto was the day the Declaration of Independence was signed. So February of 2022 is going to be an extremely powerful, potent, big change.
So does that not only affect the country, but does that affect us as citizens of the country?
Were you affected by 9/11?
Well, yeah.
Well, okay.
So,
absolutely.
I mean, is there something that we can glean from what may be coming for the country, in a practical way that would advise us?
Well, it's the difference between walking on a road and riding in a train. When you're on a train, you can't stop the train. When you're walking on a road, you can stop. So if I did your chart, I could tell you, oh, this is going to be coming up. Now is the time to maybe think about making some decisions that will make this tense planetary transit easier on you, okay? As citizens of the United States, we can vote, but maybe we can congregate, maybe we can gather to protest to sort of change the mind of the people who who write the laws. But as a citizen of the country, it's more like being on a train. We can see it coming, and some of us may have some influence with the engineer, but for the most part, we are passengers, and we can hope that the train, is that a tunnel? Or did the coyote on the road for the Roadrunner just paint the side of a wall and we're headed straight there? So with that in mind, I prefer to be an optimist about what's going to happen. And I do think that in February of 2022, when the United States has its Pluto return, I'm going to say that it's going to be a time where we really empower ourselves. So Pluto is the planet of power. It is the planet of gut-wrenching, inexorable change. And I would hope that that change is manifested in the way our leaders accept feedback from us. So let's hope for that, in the same way the Declaration of Independence was written to let the colony's former leaders know the gig was up.
Now, as we know now, a lot of the founding fathers were Freemasons. So they were into esoteric type information and that sort of thing. So, but do we know for a fact that they chose that date because of its astrology? Or do we just know that this is how it turned out? This is the way it was?
The assumption was that they were ready to go, but the Freemasons among them stalled on it so that they could get a moon in Aquarius.
I got it.
So because there was so much dissension with the 13 colonies that they knew to unite, to be the United States of America, they were going to need that unity that only Aquarius, or that Aquarius brings the best. Mm-hmm. And looking around, like especially the zone, I mean, if the security of your country is of paramount importance, zodiac Cancer can't be beat. And if the unity of your country, which maybe right now we're going through a time of somewhat where a lot of opinions are popping up, and that is a manifestation of Aquarius, is to be very opinionated. Historically, the United States has been in a time of tension to really come through. We survived the Civil War. I think we could survive whatever's kind of pulling us apart now. I think eventually there will be some unity come out of all of this.
That sounds like good news. We're right up against the break. In fact, we're over time just a little bit. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes or so. Stay with us, everyone.
Woohoo!
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Hey, welcome back to Night Vision. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Renee Barnett, and we're talking tonight with Master Astrologer Matt Gleason. We've been discussing the birth chart of the United States of America. Some very, very interesting information, and also picking up some great general information that I think a lot of people aren't aware of for the most part. But we talked about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. There they are right there, signing the Declaration of Independence on a date and a time that we believe that they chose specifically to birth this nation. And so we're going to bring Matt back on. And so Matt, that's where we were then. And then I guess, my question about looking at the United States chart and, what do we do about it? And, you compared it to, riding on a train or walking along. I guess there might be some merit in, please correct me if I'm wrong, in sort of seeing what's coming and then, in order to prepare yourself, or, maybe you can't change it. But it's just, if I'm aware that at this time the nation's going to be going through this, then I know I ought to probably do this.
Yeah. When is a good time to, plant vegetables in your yard? Or,
right.
Is it a time to, is the economy going to be so good that, somebody could start a family and be pretty confident that that the employment situation and the opportunities for their kids will be good. Those are things a country's chart might assist one in.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, before the show, we talked about a couple of events that we wanted to look at in terms of astrology and what was going on at that time. And one of them had to do with the possible appearance of extraterrestrials on the planet. And back in late June of 1947, a pilot by the name of Kenneth Arnold was flying his private plane through the Cascade Mountains. I guess that's over Washington. And he noted these objects. And he at first thought it was another aircraft. He talked on the radio, figured out it wasn't anything like that. They seemed to be flying in formation. And he said they looked like an upturned saucer. So that's where the term flying saucer originated. Then a week or so later, maybe 2 weeks at the most, but I don't think it was even 2 weeks, on July the 8th, 1947, we had an event in Roswell, New Mexico, which most people have heard about, where it was said that there was a crashed craft of some kind. And the newspapers came out and said that, the Air Force had captured a flying saucer, and it was in the papers for a couple of days that way. And we had some, back then, I think it was Major Jesse Marcel, who they made to walk back his comments and take these pictures with these materials, which he later said were not the materials that, came from the craft. And at that point, they started, putting out the story about the weather balloon, which, it could be true. I don't know for sure, but I do know, I've spoken with both Jesse Marcel and Jesse Marcel Jr.
Wow.
And Jesse Marcel Jr., who's now also passed away, was a medical doctor. And, but he said, he talked about his dad bringing some of this material from this craft home to show it to his wife and to his young son. I think he was only about 8 years old or something. and I've heard Jesse Marcel describe it, and Jesse Jr. Also describe it as being this, metallic type material, like a very, very thin foil. But you could squeeze it, you could roll it up, you could wad it up, and it would just flow back out and take its original shape. You couldn't burn it, you couldn't cut it, you couldn't do anything to it. And then of course we had a lot of other witnesses in that area. The farmer, Max Brazel, who it was his farm or his ranch that this event had occurred
near Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah, right outside of Roswell. It was, I think his name was, I think it's Brazel. I could be wrong. But anyway, and then we had, some major military people, including, of course, Jesse Marcel, but others too, law enforcement. We had the local funeral home, the mortician, talk about, having to deliver these 3 small coffins after this event to the base. I believe it was in 1996, and I don't even remember how this happened, but I came across an old man who was on his deathbed, and he was the accountant at the base there in Roswell, and he remembers paying for these little coffins, ordering and paying for them.
Wow.
So that I'm satisfied with those things happened. Now, is there another explanation for those things? I don't know. But there were young people. There was a young woman. She was a teenager at the time. And these guys all got threatened by the military, to keep their mouths shut and all that kind of stuff. So then, just a few days later, they came out in the paper and, it was a weather balloon. And then they had made Jesse Marcel say that it was a weather balloon, but he didn't believe it. And he was very upset by it. And he ended up, from what I know and have heard, really went downhill and became an alcoholic and all this stuff because of the way that he had been forced to lie for the militaries. Okay, so that's where we're at. So I was wondering if there was something that was going on at that time, and this would have been, like I said, about a week or so after the Kenneth Arnold sighting, the pilot in Washington. Then we have the Roswell incident. So I'm going to put the chart up, and tell us what we're looking at here. So that is
this is the UFO sighting on July 2nd, 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico.
Oh, okay. There were actually 2 sightings.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So this is basically what we consider, all I did was Google Roswell UFO astrology chart. So I'm just going off what I'm looking at here now. Okay. I actually prefer to have as little information as possible. I will say one fascinating thing here is it was almost a full moon, almost exact. In fact, later in the evening, this was at 9:50 at night. Later in the evening, near closer to sunrise, was the actual exact full moon. And a full moon, if you look by the number 5 in the lower right-hand corner, you will see the circle with the dot, and it is the sun. And there's a red line diagonal going up to the number 11, and there's the moon. So the sun and the moon are the moon is opposite the sun. That's a full moon. So astrology is based on astronomical reality. And so a full moon is definitely a time. I mean, look throughout literature, throughout history, the full moon is the time the crazy things happen. And again, with the full moon, I mean, just on a, not even astrology level, just on a practical level, we have to ask, do test pilots crash aircraft more often with a full moon or not? I don't know the numbers, but there's a lot of, one could glean statistical information. You don't even have to go to the paranormal.
Well, we know and certainly an uptick in crime on the full moon.
Yeah, but then and then the argument is, because they can see better, but now there's streetlights everywhere, and there's still that uptick. So So I agree that the full moon, throughout, of all the parts of astrology, the full moon is the one that is seeped into mass consciousness, and you don't need to talk about astrology at all. The most skeptical person can go, "Oh, watch out! It's a full moon," and you're right. So there's that. But the one thing about this chart that sticks out to me, just astrologically describing the phenomena that was birthed at that moment, is if you look at this red triangle, there's the sun by the number 5 and the moon by the number 11, but they both have the line coming off of each of them meet by our friend Neptune there over by the number 8. Up in the upper right hand corner of the chart, but that's the axis of the triangle. And the thing about Neptune is not only is it the planet of dreams, it's the planet of delusions, which could maybe be a strike against this actually having happened. But
that's true.
It's also the planet of hiding things and not wanting the truth out there. So wherever Neptune is, now here's the thing about the Neptune. It's the red line from Neptune to the sun and the moon. It's tension with not wanting the evidence out there. And then I can look even more intently. This is an intense one. And this is the first time I'm really looking at it. I Googled it. I got the chart. I copied it and I sent it to you. So this is the first time.
I know. Because
this is the first time I'm really looking at this. There's no setup here. I mean,
No. Because I didn't even mention this to you until just
before. It was like earlier today, a couple of hours before the show.
You weren't even going to do it. And then you ended up finding this.
I ended up finding it pretty easy. But so the Neptune, if you look at the dark blue line that goes down from Neptune, it goes to, now there is the planet Pluto and the planet Saturn are together in the same space. And that only happens every like 30 some years, for almost 40 years, like 35 years apart. What happens is it takes Saturn 28 years to go around. And in that time, to get back to the same space, Pluto has moved on. So then Saturn has to catch up to it again. So here you have Saturn and Pluto. Now, what are Saturn and Pluto? Pluto is the planet of power. It's the planet of big change. But it's very powerful. And then Saturn is the planet of limitations and of karma. So when they get together, power advances. But power also overreaches. Now, here it is. Neptune, the planet that is tense with the truth coming out, is in harmony with power. Here's the thing, though. Neptune and Pluto have been in harmony for, put it this way, this is in the 1947. It's in your birth chart, Renee. It's in my birth chart. I was born in the 60s. And it's in the birth charts now. They haven't gone that far apart. Right. But that harmony to Saturn and the authoritarian limitations of Saturn, the fact that it's harmony means the authority figures got away with the delusion.
Wow.
The authority figures successfully hid whatever happened. Saturn, when Saturn is harmonizing with Neptune, which happens every couple of years, and it happens for a while. So you'll notice there are times historically that authority figures just get away with it. And then there's times that they don't get away with it. And that's when Saturn and Neptune are probably in tension. So here you have Neptune, the planet of cover-ups, is tense with the ego of the sun and the emotional nature of the moon. So in our hearts, we know something happened, but there's a cover-up here. So yeah, I would say, just looking at this chart, that this is a chart of a cover-up. And then to even go further, if you look at where Saturn is, which again, there's the P is the planet Pluto, which is again by the sixth house, by the number 6 there in the lower right. The letter P, it's a P with it, that represents planet Pluto. The little squiggly line below that, the cross with the hump, is Saturn. If you notice, generating from them is a red line that goes almost at the top of the chart to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is a very good planet. It's a big planet. It's a planet of wild benefiting thing. When Jupiter's good in your chart, man, that's when you got to play the lottery, when you got to go to Vegas. All the ancient astrology about Jupiter is for pregnancies, because that's when a woman gets bigger, because Jupiter's the big planet. So, you got to watch Jupiter. But if you look at that Saturn the authority figure there, it's tense, it's square, Jupiter and square, and they're 90-degree angle. Jupiter's in Scorpio, 90 degrees before that is Leo, Saturn's in Leo, they don't get along. So when the planet of good things happening is tense with the planet of limitations and things just, deal with authority here. This is Saturn talking. This is the way you do it. There's one way to do it, and it's my way. I'm Saturn. Jupiter doesn't like that. When Jupiter and Saturn get together and they harmonize, good things happen. But when they are tense with each other, let me tell you, there is authority figures not liking. So here we have this is a real, a real indicator that the authority figures didn't like what got out, did not like the big story. There is a cover up here, real heavy cover up. So yeah, with that full moon, it's tense enough with the full moon. They're both that triangle to Neptune and delusions is like, oh man. Now, could we spin this on its head and say, well, Neptune's delusional, or are we having a mass hallucination that there was a UFO? And is the authorities figures saying, look, there was a plane crash and we have to cover up the secret plane that we were testing? These things are plausible too. That's why the story's so good. Maybe they knew. Don't ever underestimate that our government isn't still in touch with they're not run by, but they're still in touch with the Freemasons. Yeah. And as much they can say, how do we spin this? And a good Freemason astrologer would have said, just say you were testing some aircraft there. But there is that mass delusion of, when people want something to be real, they will listen to the story that reinforces that. So as an astrologer, my loyalty is to my clients, so I really have to be open-minded to the possibility that what happened was random and what part was really determined by the planets. So I always retain a bit of skepticism here, but I can say a cover-up of some sort. Maybe the cover-up was the cover-up of those secret aircrafts, and who knows? Maybe they're still secret for a big reason. But
I don't know why they would need the tiny coffins, but
see, there you go. So look at Mars, which is at the very bottom. It's the traditional sign for the masculine energy, the circle with the arrow coming out of the upper right of it, down by the number 3 there at the bottom of the chart. There's a blue line to that Neptune, and so that is very much a harmony, masculine energy harmonizing with delusion and belief systems that we have. Religious belief systems are all under Neptune. And so when Mars, that masculine aggression, is the military saying, you will believe this story.
Right.
You will believe this story.
I wonder if it, couldn't be, that could be part of it, is that they feel like if there was let's say it was true, it did happen, and extraterrestrials crashed in a craft. If you're talking about religion, well, that might, for some people call their religion into question, so could that be part of the thing there?
You're pretty good at this.
Thank you. The other thing I was wondering is, okay, like, let's just say you didn't have any of the date or any information. You just had the chart itself. And,
you can tell time. You can tell time by, in fact, the guy who tried to debunk astrology said, oh, I showed an astrologer Hitler's chart, and he didn't know it was Hitler's chart. And you know what? I've read dozens of books written in the 30s and 40s and the 50s, and they were obsessed with Hitler's chart. It is almost impossible
not to
now.
know.
Millennials, they can get on, like I said, 20 minutes later, they're on TikTok as an expert astrologer. But there was a time frame where no astrologer hadn't seen Hitler's chart. But even if somebody like me, born after that, I know where the planets are. So like, look at this. Like I was saying, that Pluto and Saturn there by the number 6. Okay, Pluto's in Leo. Okay, well, every baby boomer has Pluto in Leo. That's a sign of baby boomers. When Pluto moves into Virgo, then you start seeing the Generation X. The Generation X comes out pretty soon after that. So Pluto is a generation defining thing. Well, so Pluto in Leo It's like, well, Pluto in Leo is the 1950s, and 250 years before that, the 1700s. Yeah, I'm not an expert on the 1700s, but I would look at another slow-moving planet. So another slow-moving planet is up by the number 8. There is Neptune, and Neptune takes 200 some years to go around, or 100, I think it's 180, 200 years, something like that. And so if I see Neptune in a familiar place, I've done so many charts of people. I've done so many charts of people born in the late 1960s and early 1970s. It's like I can look at, I just know, like when they say their birth date, that one client here, that one client there. I can already do their chart. I don't even have to look at the computer sometimes to start rattling stuff off. So baby boomers have Neptune in Libra. So look, Pluto in Leo and Neptune in Libra. And then I can look for the third confirmation, a slow-moving planet that goes around every 84 years is the planet Uranus, and it's down by the number 4. It's actually conjunct Venus. If you notice Venus, it's the same planetary significator as the sign for women. Women's lib had the Venus sign. Right. So if you notice in this chart, there's technology is married to beauty. So that's why there's so much poetry written about Roswell. So many people talking about this was a magic moment that really stayed in people's minds. But to talk about timing of a chart, to see the planet Uranus, to know, if you're an astrologer, you know the cycle of the planet Uranus. So you're like, oh yeah, Uranus is in Gemini. It's like it's an 84-year cycle. So right away you go, well, okay, this is an 84-year cycle. It was definitely in the 1940s. In fact, Uranus is going to be in Gemini. Uranus is in Taurus now. So in about 5 years, Uranus is going to be moving into Gemini. So somebody with Uranus, if you say, oh, this is a friend of mine's chart, how old are they? I mean, the easiest thing is to say, well, this person's born in this is definitely like the 1940s, maybe the 1950s, because so I would say that right now. The thing about the 50s is I've done a lot of charts for my baby boomer friends born in the early 50s, and by then the planet Uranus had moved into zodiac Cancer already. So I know if I see Uranus in Gemini, it's inevitably something in the 1940s. With the substantiation of Pluto in Leo and Neptune in Libra. If Pluto's not in Leo and definitely not in Cancer, I know this is not even a 20th century chart, you see. So a decent astrologer knows these are, let me explain. These are this is like the basic, this is astrology 101. This is not some esoteric astrology. This is like, it's a timepiece. You can keep time with this thing.
And like if you were just to see this without any of the text or anything on it, if you just saw the chart itself, and it could be a chart of a person or
I would prefer that. I don't want to know, Renee. Next time you're going to do the Googling, you're going to show me the chart.
So you would look at that and you would say, okay, whatever's going on here, there's a cover up. There's something. This is a time of whether it's someone's personal.
Well, here's the thing. If you said, hey, this is a baby was born at 9:50 p.m. in Roswell, New Mexico. Here's their chart. You wouldn't even have to say that. You could cut off all the text and just show me the circle. Right. I would say, like, I give you a chart analysis. Okay, well, this is a person who has trouble with authority. This is a person who is they have a very authoritarian streak, and yet they don't react or they don't work well with others. They want things their way. There's a lot of stubbornness here, a lot of tension that way. There is a grand delusion, and yet they're very charismatic. This person's very charismatic because their grand delusion. They continue in that, and this person has a real artistic, poetic streak. And yeah, so there's I mean extreme basics here, but so I could go that and think, oh, haha, it's the Roswell, New Mexico incident. I'll say, well, there's authority figures involved in there. There's chaos with the authority figures, Yeah. So the poetry would still apply. It's like if you get a translator and they have a poem written in German, they say there's the American author Charles Bukowski was of German heritage, and they say even though he didn't speak German, he wrote in English. But he had a German brain because they say his if you speak both languages, he's an even better author in German when they translate it well. So this is it's like I'm just translating what I'm seeing here from astrology to English. That's all I'm doing here.
Got it.
So show the next chart.
All right.
And because I wanted to talk a little more about the timepiece, but because the next chart takes place a couple of years later, if anybody's following along, it'll be easy to point out.
Quite a few years later.
Okay, this is a few years later, so you'll notice by the number 7, there's that zodiac sign Leo, but the P is no longer in Leo; it's in Virgo, and the planet Uranus that was in Gemini, which is much closer to the Earth and therefore goes around faster, is moving into a conjunction in the same space as Pluto, and it's in Virgo too. So it's gone from Gemini in its 84-year path. It's already gone almost 1/4 of its 84-year cycle. So this is about not 20 years later, but close to it. And look, it's the planet Uranus in 1963. And then Neptune has gone from Libra to Scorpio. So these things are very consistent. So now it's 1963. And of course, it's November 22nd, 1963.
So we're talking about the Kennedy assassination.
So this is the moment John F. Kennedy was assassinated. There's a lot of theories out there. I agree with Gore Vidal that we can look at all the theories, and they do point in a lot of different directions. But one thing we can all agree on is it probably wasn't suicide. So, starting with the 12:30 birth time, you have the November 22nd, 1963 in Dallas, Texas. If you see in the upper left of the chart on the screen here, in the upper left it says Dallas, Texas. Below that are the actual geographic coordinates. The north, south, the 96 degrees west, the 30 degrees north of the equator. So this stuff is really based on classical mapping technology and really astronomical science. And again, Isaac Newton developed this planet, the theory of planetary motions, which is totally accurate. So the thing that sticks out to me about this chart that is extremely intense is if you look by the number 1, is Saturn and the moon are together. So you have by the number 1, the sign, the zodiac by the number 1, and do you see where I'm talking on the left side of the chart?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll see the crescent moon right above that, and the planet Saturn, and that's called rising. These two planets are the moon is not a planet. In astrological shorthand, we call it a planet. So the moon and Saturn rising in a chart is very intense. And when a planet rises, it's in what's called the 12th house. So you see the number 12 up there in that little pie slice. And the 12th house is the house of secrets. And it's also the house of self-undoing and institutions. And again, Saturn is that karmic absolutism. When Saturn's in your chart, when I'm doing a reading for you in your chart, your personal birth chart, and Saturn's, it's not, there's no bonus. Jupiter's the bonus. Jupiter's the Christmas bonus and the overtime. Saturn is the paycheck, what you earned. And if you didn't put that much in, you don't earn that much. Saturn is karma. And so here we have this authoritarian planet and this emotional nature, and in the zodiac sign of We the People. So there is this, that's the rising part. That's the most intense part of this chart. And so when you talk about a cover-up, having authority in this house of undoing, which means they got caught, but they didn't get caught because they got away with it because there was a secret. And they kept the secret, but they didn't keep the secret, but secret's out somewhat. Yeah. So We the People, that moon, that emotional need to know will always be right there with the cover-up. They're one and the same. Our need to know and the cover-up are one and the same.
So by looking at this chart, it is likely that there was a cover-up of what really happened.
I think that goes without saying. I'll put it this way. Even if Oswald acted alone, there was a cover-up to not make it look like the United States was so vulnerable to one Marxist, Right. So even in that, there was even no matter what theory you believe in, there was a cover-up. So and then again, and this is interesting enough to me, is the moon, when Roswell happened, was in a 90-degree angle to Neptune. And here again in the JFK assassination chart, the moon is at a 90-degree to Neptune. And so there's that delusion, that emotional disconnect between what we know is real and what we know happened and what happened behind the scenes.
Mm.
And what were we told later? The Zapruder film was not even shown to the public for 20 years. It was like rumored. It's just like, what? So this whole thing of authority, that Saturn authority holding on to stuff is very intense. And whereas the Roswell chart had Jupiter intention with Saturn, here Neptune's intention with Saturn. So this delusion is the authority figures they're working overtime to give you their story, to give you their Warren report. And no matter how expertly researched the Warren report was, there are many, many alternatives that were just ignored. Things were just ignored. For what reason? Bureaucrats operate like that every day in their defense. And so one could say, well, okay, maybe they were doing their best. At the time, the naive belief in the testimony of intelligence officers was something that wouldn't necessarily fly with a congressional committee today. I mean, after the Kennedy assassination, after the Warren report in the 70s, there was a great report called the Church Report. And it was a Idaho Senator Frank Church, and that really disempowered a lot of the intelligence agencies. They've subsequently become re-empowered with the Patriot Act and all that stuff. But the Warren report, here you have the authority figures tense with cover up here, but that moon right there is we the people saying no. So the JFK assassination will never be solved because in a way there's almost too much evidence. There's already been too many points of view articulated, and there's not enough visual. There's only the visual evidence is that he's dying. And if you go to Dealey Plaza, the structure of it does maybe support the theory that when they heard the gunman from the grassy knoll was the echo off of the bridge, because the street does go down. It's this weird architecture where, so if you're up if you go up in that, you can't go into the spot Oswald was in, but you can go one floor above and you can look at, and they've painted X's in the street where the bullets hit. To their credit, I mean, the cover up was we the people demanded. When they started taking that picket fence down to remodel the place, people are like, hey man, this is part of the cover up. And to Dallas's credit, they said, okay, we the people have spoken. We're not going to change anything, and they never will. That picket fence is exactly, it's like architects who love picket fences might be, this is a great example of mid-century picket fences, which no longer exist. It's the most boring fence you've ever seen, but they're not going to change it. So that's we the people. We the people caught you. We the people caught you in your cover-up. Whatever your cover-up was, even if, again, it could be a lone gunman, and the cover-up is the embarrassment of the United States that a lone Marxist nut could do this. That alone would cause a cover-up. So that it's too woven. But I mean, the classic sense that the Warren Commission was manipulated. Because you believe in the integrity. You believe in the integrity. Here's the thing about conspiracies. Okay, let's say that you have a neighbor that you want to get evicted, and try to get 4 of your other neighbors, even the ones who don't like him, to all agree to tell the same story to the cop. It's hard to do a conspiracy. So the idea that you're going to do conspiracy with these independent-minded congressional people that want to run for office later as the guy who uncovered that thing, but you could have these back then they just naively believe, and we're back to this historically where we, the government naively just, conveniently and naively believes these intelligence officers, military officers, paragon of the virtue of the state. Come on. So that's the nature of this country, though. When we were looking at the thing, that's the nature of the cancer. The cancer is very much, I want to stay home and be naive. I'm very comfortable at home. That's the American dream, is own your own home so you can be in your home. The outside world doesn't come in. So there's that's basically when I look at this chart. I mean, I can go a little deeper if you want. There's sure. If you notice up by the number 10, between the number 10 and 11, there's 3 planets. It's Venus, the sign, the international sign for women, the Mars, the masculine sign. Venus and Mars are in the same space. It's conjunction in Sagittarius. That's great. That was having the parade in the morning. But the tension to the red line from the Venus and Mars goes across to that Pluto and Uranus, which they eventually they were conjunct in 1966, and that's what changed the 60s. And while the United States was going through its first acid tests and its first protest against the Vietnam War, Mao's Cultural Revolution, they say that the album that changed music wasn't Sgt. Pepper. It was the year before. It was Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde when he had the first double album, and one song took up the whole side. It just changed. It changed how people did, thought of the album as an art form. That came out the same day as Mao started the Cultural Revolution in 1966. So like here we are, the free country is, culturally expanding musically. And then at the same time, the top down hierarchy country is just crushing any chance that somebody could ever address that hierarchy. So the same thing happens at astrology will always manifest within the cultural norms or against the cultural norms of any culture. Two countries with the borders next to each other, the astrology, it will manifest as a big change. So that's what made the 60s the 60s. So here you have them getting very close and already having these revolutionary things happening. So you have this beautiful parade, this Venus and Mars. If you're born with Venus and Mars, let me tell you, you were the prom queen. I do people's charts all the time. I could do a woman's chart. She could be a grandma, and I could say, well, you definitely had your pick when you were the prom queen. And but that Venus Mars, that's that beautiful, the pink, the Jackie in that pink Chanel outfit with the pillbox hat, and shaking hands, and that ride in the plaza, no bubble, waving to everybody, and but that tension to Pluto, and Pluto is inexorable change. And yeah, if I was a presidential advisor, there's a story. They said that Abraham Lincoln had an advisor, I don't know the person's first name, but it was Mr. Kennedy, and he said, "Don't go to the theater." Yeah. And that Kennedy had a cabinet member or somebody, a secretary named Lincoln, who said, "Don't go to Dallas." So yeah. So
that is true. That is factual.
So there is that, and then there is Mercury, which is a planet of communication. But Mercury is also kind of a wild instigator, and when it's tense with other planets, especially with the planet Uranus, which is disruptions. So you have Mercury also there in the 10th, has a red line to the planet Uranus. So that's you'll see that in somebody's chart. If you're born with Mercury tense with Uranus, you're usually a person who has a personality quirk or two that really irritate people that is no fault of your own. You're like, huh? Or you end up in situations where your upbringing clashes with everybody else's upbringing, whether you're from a high class and you work with people who don't like high class people, or right. You're from maybe lower means and you've actually succeeded, but you still have some of the effects that the upper classes don't like, and they irritate the upper classes. Yeah. That happens a lot. These are manifestations of that Mercury tension with the planet Uranus.
Oh, wow.
But I'm just applying it to this event that happened. But
yeah. Now, that was 1963. It's hard to realize. I mean, that's basically ancient history now.
Yeah.
But look how much we've chewed on that story. It's just unbelievable.
Well, but it's still alive with us, but it's, after us. I mean, I was born, frankly, after the Kennedy assassination, but I grew up, Kennedy, Irish Catholic family. I mean, and my dad was born in 1929, Irish Catholic. And if you talk about the Kennedy assassination, he gets very solemn. He's 92. He gets very solemn.
My parents were the same way. In fact, my father's birthday was November 22nd. Mm-hmm. So, he always said, oh my gosh, that was such a horrible birthday.
But now it's people born on September 11th. All the Virgos got it now. So the Scorpios, early Sagittarians are off the hook.
Yeah. And I've seen people even since then actually get married on that day. And I thought, I don't know if I would do that. It would just be stuck in my brain. Not that it.
No. I will say this: astrologically, it's a good day. The first day of any sign is always that's good energy, depending on your charts. And I've done this before. I've been hired to pick a good wedding day for a couple, and different things like that. And they're all still married.
Kidding. Well, now can you find somebody a man, or do you have to? Do you only give them advice? Asking for a friend.
The problem now is you say like, well, I don't, I'm happily married. I don't know much about Tinder. I understand conceptually what these are, but I do think that there are times where I just say like, look, I would tell a woman like, you know what, put on the dress and go out. They're coming to you. You are a magnet. Just, So I'm not one to necessarily give you how to pick the best man, but there's times like where people are like, when am I going to fall in love? And I remember telling this one, I did this is 20 years ago. And I told this woman like, oh, you are going to have like a love frenzy. And she's like, oh, when? I'm like 8 years from now. Oh, she was so angry with me. So angry. Yeah. And, but 10 years later, she thanked me. She said,
oh my gosh,
because she just took that, like those 8 years. She's like, she would give up sooner. And then she found like the perfect guy. She was very happy, still very happy. So that love frenzy, I might have used a different word besides love for your show. I'm keeping it.
Have you ever done this? Like, you're doing someone's chart and you look at it and you think, Joe's chart.
Oh, don't know that. I think that's what makes a good astrologer is the ability to sort of compare. Like, oh, I've seen this before. I've seen this a bunch of times. I really should check this out. Or hey, this person's lucky. I know 3 people like this who went on to very successful things because they were able to apply that. Right. And so, yeah, that does help. I really don't like to know what people do ahead of time. It screws me up. I would much rather just look at a chart and just start. I've been on there. There's this app called Clubhouse. And it's like audio. It's like talking. It's like a chat room, but it's live audio. And so I was doing for a while. I was doing 5-minute astrology readings. So just be ready. And I would have my computer and I would listen, and I could type it. I type in the information and I would look at their chart and give them 5-minute reading. And it was all. What was great about it for me is I'm so used to doing like baby boomer and Gen X, just my generation's chart. Everybody I grew up, everybody I know, old friends, and so I was doing people like 19-year-olds. Oh my God, you were born in 2000. Like I was doing what? It's like, I remember what I was doing the day you were born, like crazy stuff like that. But it was good. I was able to really, I would still see consistencies with other charts I'd read and be able to point out personality quirks that they had that, beyond a random thing, Look, I read some bad astrology books in my time. So I read astrology books where it like every chapter would say, oh, Virgo. Okay, I'm reading Virgo. And this, that. You enjoy fine food. Okay, Virgos enjoy fine food. Then you go to Libra, the next thing, this, that. You enjoy fine food. Wait a minute. I looked at everyone. They said, you enjoy fine food. I said, it's funny, too, because you could be eating, steak at the Ritz, and then, the guy cleaning the toilet at the Ritz goes as a pastrami sandwich, saying, this is fine food, So it's a fine food, it's cultural food. These things, and the critique of astrology, which I accept, I would debate people on astrology all the time. I'm happy to, is that it is generalizations that could apply to anyone at any time. So I do try to be skeptical enough of my theory that I constantly try to try to hone it to make sure I make it as specific as possible. One of the great things about transiting stuff, like we talked about earlier in the show about like when Pluto was on the rising sign in the United States, it was 9/11. To look at your chart, just go, this. Sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news, and people, a lot of my customers, I hate to say it, but I'm basically lumped under the psychic business, even though I don't consider myself psychic. I consider myself to be intuitive, educated, intuitive. Is to basically say like, excuse me, I was having by the way, I've been drinking bubbly water here. Can I get this here? Mineral water. This is not. I'm not tipping. But basically, like a lot of people in this business, and the customers want flattery. And so if you're like, this bad thing, I need to talk to you about these bad habits of yours. And they're like, no, I just want to know the fun stuff. It's like, so I take this very seriously. You get a reading from me, you're going to get, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it's a lot of good. And everybody's got a shadow side. And some people, they have this, what it's now called, but I love this phrase, toxic positivity, where they basically they're so positive all the time.
Yeah.
Don't talk about that. And I believe you have to unveil the shadow. You have to talk about the shadow side, so that you can let it manifest, so you can digest it and be done with it. And so and then the ugly is like, were you born ugly, or are you going to be ugly on your 90th birthday? It's one of the other. Although, if I ever need to know if anybody's looking at my Facebook page, if you have parents in their 80s or 90s, always throw up a picture of your parents if you want to get on social media, if you want to see how many likes can I max out at, because that I found that out.
Yeah, I saw your picture of your mom. So
mom or dad, 400 likes, no problem.
Exactly. I mean,
serious philosophical, the state of the world piece I'm writing, 5 likes, 10 likes. So.
Yeah, exactly. Information that can save the entire world.
Totally.
But put a picture of mom up there, and
I love it.
You got everybody's hearts with you.
I love my
the people who are viewing can see that Matt's Instagram is at Astrology Blitz.
Astrology Blitz.
Yes,
I do. On Astrology Blitz, what I do is a weekly forecast. I usually tape it on Sunday. I usually sit behind this quilt, which my mother made.
I was going to ask you, did your mom make that quilt?
Yes, my mother made the quilt, but I usually I'm here. You don't see this part of it, but I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Instagram, you can't go more than 15 minutes. And now my Astrology Blitz in Los Angeles on Tuesdays, Tuesday afternoons between 3 and 4, they take my Instagram and they play it. And if I have if I say a cuss word or I describe it's KXLU is Loyola Marymount, which is a Jesuit school. So they edit out some of when they play a punk record, there's some punk songs that are I guess raps every other but it's almost in rhythm. But I've been beeped a few times. So it's on the radio now too, at KXLU on Tuesday afternoons. But it's a week ahead, so I tape it on Sunday and I talk about the week ahead, what's coming up, and then I usually go through all the signs. That's fun. And then through that, I've gotten a bit of a small following, but people can find me there and then can message me through Instagram if they're interested in a reading. Zoom's been Zoom was a boom. The lockdown for me was, I just sit here and do Zooms all day.
Oh, I'm telling you, it really, I think a lot of people got very innovative and learned how to do things. And now they're still doing Zoom and still doing those things because it's so much more efficient.
Oh yeah. So I do a Zoom where I look what we did with the United States there. I do your chart, your birth chart, and then I do where the planets are now. So we talk about you and your personality and your tendencies, good and bad, or lucky and challenging. There's no good or bad, lucky and challenging, fortunate or whatever. And then we look at where the planets are now and how they are interacting with the planets with your birth. We can make some predictions about what's coming up. And I
can actually contact you on Instagram.
Yeah, through Instagram and messages, you can get a hold of me, and it's $100 for 1 hour.
Great.
You record it, you can download it, and I have a very satisfied customer base. And some people, like I said, they get business advice, real estate. I don't know anything about real estate, but I had, there's a whole section of the Zodiac that is about escrows, other people's money.
Gosh.
And so you got to in fact, it's the 8th house. So the 8th house is the house of sex and other people's money. Think about that.
I don't have either one of those. So
yeah. So if you're 20, a 20-year-old frat boy, you want to know when you're going to get laid, or you're a 40-year-old real estate investor, I'm going to look at the same part of the chart. You're going to get laid, and you're going to buy a great house. But seriously, I've got a lot of satisfied customers, and I've done hundreds.
Oh, I know you do.
Maybe 1,000 chart reading. I've lost count, and I used to do it. I've got these old books. So I used to sit there with the book but now with the computer software and stuff, you can get up, boom, 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 do stuff. And if somebody in the middle of the reading wants to know, what about this or that, there's lots of ways to calculate it. And one of the things I like to do, the reason I like to keep things focused is, look, there's in ancient Greece, there were 7 planets, the sun, moon, and 5 planets. Then there's Uranus was discovered later, Neptune was discovered later, and Pluto was discovered later. A lot of astrologers add asteroids. A lot of astrologers add the fixed stars that are way out there. So then all of a sudden it's like and this is a critique of astrology, there's too many things. So if you want to say you're going to fall in love, look, you're going to, there's got to be an asteroid or a star that says you're going to fall in love. So I try to keep it to very focused, basic classical astrology and intuition and just logic. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're 50 and your goal in life was to always have a rock band and you still don't know how to play guitar and you really can't sing and you want me to look up in your chart about when are you going to form a rock band and it's going to become successful, I'm not going to use astrology.
I remember when I gave up my rock star dreams.
Probably. You're a rock star, Renee. You're the rock star of this network.
My goodness. Oh, I have a quick question for you. Does the term or the, I guess, enigmatic idiom "as above, so below"? Are we talking about astrology?
That's I know, and that's a lot of the occult. I don't know who coined the phrase, but I have to imagine they were an astrologer. I know it goes way back.
I would think so.
It has to be. I would be shocked, and it's been because that's certainly what's going on up there. And look, here's my theory. I can't tell you how it works, but I can tell you that the planets are kind of bumpy spheres spinning around, kind of like atoms, kind of like atoms, and maybe the solar system is a molecule that's constantly moving. But our craniums are somewhat bumpy spheres, and I think those spheres up there make an imprint on this sphere down. Like the most important organ in our brain is our brain, and it's in this sphere, and
Right.
and it gets imprint. We know that sensation makes imprints on the brain.
Right.
It's called dendritic arborization. Dendritic is like a tree. Arbor is like a tree, and dendritic is like the nerve. Everything touching building networks. So forces. A rationalist scientist who says without evidence, all we can say is that it must be sensory information. But how do we know we're picking? We don't have the machines to measure what we're picking up, and it's been proven time and time again. As each generation invents a machine to pick up some new sense. So at some point, we're going to figure out the thing making the impression in the brain is some of it at least has to be these planets, and these ancient determinants are so consistent. And I just challenge people to who are really skeptical is I started out as a skeptic, and you've seen, of any astrologer you talk to I publicly pointed out weaknesses and flaws in astrology here in the thing, because I don't have a problem, taking on challenges to this. I'm not coming this as a true believer. But I had to take a leap of faith at some point. But taking that leap of faith, just sit back and watch some of these tendencies. You can pop popcorn and watch the movie. Sometimes it's fascinating.
Wow. And we're down to 4 minutes left. So if you don't mind, just give us a outline.
Well, hey, I'll tell you what. Let's look at what's coming up next week. How about that? It's we're doing this on Friday. Let's look at this is what I will do I'll do this on Astrology Blitz on my Instagram. So oh boy, next Wednesday's gonna suck. Don't do anything Wednesday. Wednesday's gonna suck. Whatever shit's gonna hit the fan. Can I say that on the network? Sorry. Wednesday's the planet Mars is the planet of action. The planet Saturn is that authoritarian limitations, and they're going to be tense with each other, and we don't like that. We don't like that in astrology, and that's Wednesday. Let me look at the time here.
What about next Friday when I have to do the show again?
Oh, okay. Oh, next Friday. Oh, next Friday be good. Next Friday's going to be great.
Hopefully,
Actually,
I'll be
it's going to
here
be really good. It's going to be really good. The moon's in Pisces next week, and for anything dealing with the occult, Pisces is the absolute paragon of the occult. So have a good occult.
I think I have a good guest book for that, although I'm not sure she's solidly confirmed, so I can't really announce it, but I'm pretty sure.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah, get a cult. But Wednesday, Wednesday's one of those stay home, just, it's going to be a miserable day. Sorry. Yeah. We can make the best of it by by lowering our expectations and our commitments.
Yeah. I like, when I have one of those kind of days, or it feels like one of those kind of days, I just kind of lay low let the day go by, and then pick up again the next
It's like
time.
when I look at that, I go, if you're prone to migraines, you're going to have a migraine. If you're, prone to backache, you're going to have a backache. It's just going to be one of those days.
Yeah.
You're going to, it's one of those days where you're going to snip at the wife and it's like, oops, like one of those days. She's not having a good day either, pal. So it's just, fair, so if you want to just, like I'm saying, just, November 10th, kind of a lame day. But the best thing, and I would always leave people with this, is the planets move on. This is how I've learned to break bad news to clients is, the planets move on. So when a bad thing happens, as it builds up, just get ready. It's bad, but then it's going to move on. Things are going to be good. And then when a good thing's happening, people are like, this is great. You know what? Don't get lazy. And this is how things should always be, because they're not always going to be this way.
Yeah.
So now's your chance while things are good to make the best of it, so that when things aren't as good, they aren't terrible. They're just kind of low-key miserable.
Yeah.
So that's as good as I can do as far as advice.
That's good. And then in terms of going forward in the future a little bit, we only got a minute. Is the United States going to be all right?
The Pluto return next year is going to be a major year. I don't want to make some doom and gloom prediction, but it's going to be a major year of people finding their own way in this country. People are really going to find their own way. I mean, the Declaration of Independence, it's going to be the power of the Declaration of Independence is going to return to America in 2022, whatever that means. I'm just
whatever that means. Oh,
I'm just an astrologer. I start making predictions. A lot of it tells you more about the astrologer. It tells you more about the astrologer sometimes than astrology when they make these predictions. So I want to say I'm keeping it vague, but I want to be a man of hope. So I'm going to be hopeful that we will.
Generally speaking, not just this coming year, but generally speaking, at least for the foreseeable future, the United States is going to continue to stand.
Oh yeah, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and maybe we will get back to focusing on those three.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much, Matt.
Renee, thanks for having me. It was a blast.
I had such a blast. It was like,
oh yeah, I got to pimp my Instagram. I got to pimp my Instagram.
Yeah. There it is, at Astrology Blitz. It's right there on the screen. And for those of you who are not watching but only listening, at Astrology Blitz. So give them a buzz and let him know if you'd like to have a reading of your own, or just check out his Instagram and see what he's talking about anyway.
I mean, I got 350 followers, but they're all good customers.
Yeah. Thank you again. And thanks everyone for listening. I do appreciate it. And you guys take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye. 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 Bye.
Did I freeze? I thought I froze, and then I went, what? Oh, I didn't freeze.
I don't know what happened to our.
Mine says 157. Have you done 2 hours?
Well, we usually stop at 57 because there's a 3-minute break, but I think we're still live.
58. There we are. Oh, here we go.
No.
Skywatcher came on, and then he came on.
No, that was me. I put him on.
Well, here we are.
Anyway, if we're still live, it's a little crazy, but in the replay, it'll get edited and this part won't be on. This is only for the live portion, but I don't know. Maybe Bill.
I'm the same man on camera and off camera. So
exactly. Yeah. What you see is what you get with me.
I don't have this great oh no, they saw the real me. They see the real me.
Well, I think we,
wrap up now and say good night. It was. Skywatcher just came on. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot for having me, Renee.